The emergency signal came through at 3 in the morning, station time. Was already awake, sitting in the observation room and watching the stars like she always did when sleep refused to come. Her coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but she did not notice. The alarm changed everything. She moved fast. 20 years of rescue work had trained her body to respond before her mind fully caught up. She was in her suit and running toward the hangar before the second alarm finished sounding. The details came through her earpiece as she moved. A transport vessel, engine failure, crash landing on the eastern ridge of Moon Kappa 7, unknown number of survivors. Knew them, though she had never met one in person. Tall beings with gray fur and golden eyes, a warrior species proud and fierce. They did not ask for help easily. If a distress signal had gone out, things were very bad. Her shuttle cut through the thin atmosphere of the moon in 12 minutes. The crash site was easy to find. A trail of burning metal stretched across the gray rocks like a wound. The main body of the ship had broken apart on impact, scattering debris across half a kilometer. Smoke rose from several points, black against the pale sky. Landed her shuttle at a safe distance and stepped out into the cold air. Her suit kept her warm, but she could feel the chill pressing against the material. She activated her scanner and began walking toward the wreckage. The first body she found was an adult, a female based on the markings on her fur. She lay near what had been the cockpit, her golden eyes staring at nothing. Knelt beside her for a moment, saying a quiet word of respect, then continued her search. There was nothing she could do for the dead. Her job was to find the living. She found them huddled inside a broken cargo container, 3 small figures pressed together in the darkness. Cubs, children. Stopped at the entrance of the container, not wanting to frighten them. The light from outside fell across their faces, and she saw 3 pairs of golden eyes staring back at her. They were young, very young. The biggest one might have been equivalent to a 10-year-old human child. The smallest looked no older than 5. The biggest cub moved first. He stepped in front of the other 2 and bared his teeth. His fur was dark gray, almost black, and his small fangs caught the light. A growl came from his throat, low and steady. Did not move. She had seen this before with frightened animals on Earth. The behavior was the same across species. When creatures were scared, they tried to look dangerous. "Hello," she said softly. Her translator converted the word into the clicking, rumbling language of the "My name is, I am here to help you." The cub growled louder. His whole body was shaking, but he held his ground. Behind him, the second cub moved closer to the smallest one, wrapping protective arms around the little one's shoulders. "I am not going to hurt you," continued. She kept her voice calm and gentle. "I know you are scared. That is okay. Being scared after something like this is normal." The big cub's growl faltered for just a moment. His golden eyes flickered with something that might have been confusion. Guessed that no adult had ever told him it was okay to be scared before. They were warriors. They probably taught their children that fear was weakness. "Go away," the cub said. His voice was high and thin, not yet deepened by age. "We do not need your help. We are strong." Looked at him carefully. His fur was matted with dust and something darker that might have been blood. Not his own, she hoped. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides, and his legs were planted wide in a fighting stance. He was doing everything he had been taught to do. But he was a child. A scared, hurt child who had just lost everything. "I can see that you are strong," said. "Very strong. It takes great courage to protect your friends like this." The cub blinked. His growl faded slightly. "What is your name?" asked. For a long moment the cub did not answer. Then slowly he said, repeated, "That is a good name, and your friends." Glanced back at the other 2 cubs. The second one, a female with lighter gray fur, answered for herself. "I am Kiva." Her voice was steadier than, but her eyes were just as frightened. The smallest cub did not speak. He just pressed closer to Kiva, hiding his face in her shoulder. That is, Kiva said. He is young, he does not talk much. Nodded. Hello, Kiva, hello. I am very glad to meet you, even though the situation is not good. Sgrowl started again. We do not need humans. Humans are weak. Our teacher told us. You have no claws, no fangs, you cannot hunt, you cannot fight. Did not argue with him. She had heard similar things from other species. Humans were small compared to most of the galaxy's inhabitants. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. On paper, they seemed like one of the weakest species in known space, but had learned long ago that strength came in many forms. Your teacher was right, she said. I do not have claws or fangs. I am not a great hunter or fighter, but I am very good at helping people who are hurt or lost. That is my job. That is why I am here. His ears flattened against his head. We are not hurt. We are not lost. We know exactly where we are. You are on Moon Kappa 7, said. The eastern ridge. It is very cold here and night is coming. The temperature will drop below what your bodies can safely handle. I have a warm shuttle and food and medicine. Will you let me help you? The three cubs looked at each other, could see them communicating in ways she did not understand. Small movements of ears and tails, slight changes in the sounds of their breathing. They were deciding together. Finally turned back to her. We will stay here, our people will come for us. We do not need human help. Felt her heart ache for them. Their people would come, eventually. But help was at least 2 days away, and these children would not survive that long in the cold. She did not say this. She did not want to scare them more than they already were. I understand, she said instead. I will stay nearby just in case you change your mind. Is that okay? Hesitated, then he nodded just once. Stepped back from the container entrance. She found a flat rock about 20 meters away and sat down, making herself as small and non-threatening as possible. The cubs watched her from their hiding spot, their golden eyes glowing in the fading light. The sun was setting. Soon it would be very cold. Settled in to wait. The sun disappeared behind the mountains, and darkness spread across the moon like spilled ink. The temperature began to drop immediately. Could feel it even through her thermal suit, a deep cold that pressed against her bones. She watched the cargo container where the three cubs were hiding. Every few minutes she could see movement at the entrance, golden eyes catching the starlight. They were watching her too. Did not move from her rock. She sat very still, her hands resting on her knees, her breathing slow and even. She had learned patience from her grandmother, a woman who could sit for hours waiting for fish to bite or flowers to bloom. Waiting was not hard. Waiting was just breathing. An hour passed, then 2. The first sound came from the smallest cub. A whimper, soft and high, carried across the cold air. Heard it clearly in the silence of the moon. She did not react. She did not want the cubs to think she was listening too closely. Inside the container was trying to keep his siblings warm. They were not actually his siblings by blood. Kiva was his cousin and was the son of his mother's friend. But they had grown up together on the transport ship, and he thought of them as brother and sister. They were his family now. They were his responsibility now. The adult who had been caring for them was gone, had seen her lying in the wreckage, her eyes empty. He had not told Kiva, and he did not know how. So he just said that they needed to hide and wait for help, and they had believed him because they always believed him. Now they were cold, so cold. Fur was thick, designed for the temperate forests of their home world, but this moon was different. The air was thin and bitter, and the ground seemed to suck the warmth right out of their bodies. Was shivering so hard his teeth were clicking together. Kiva was trying to wrap herself around him, sharing what little heat she had. Stood at the entrance of the container, keeping watch. His legs hurt from standing so long, and his eyes burned from staring into the darkness. But he would not sit down. Warriors did not rest while enemies were near. The human was still there, still sitting on her rock like a statue. She had not moved in hours, did not understand it. Why was she waiting? What did she want? His teacher had told him about humans. They were a strange species from a small blue planet. They had no natural weapons and no special abilities. They should have been prey, but somehow they had spread across the galaxy like a weed. Nobody understood how. Some said it was their technology. Others said it was their numbers, but teacher had said it was something else, something dangerous. Humans were persistent. They did not give up. They would chase prey for days, walking slowly while faster animals tired and fell. They would pursue goals for years, decades, generations. They were patient in ways that other species could not match. Looking at the human sitting motionless in the freezing cold, began to understand what his teacher meant. Another whimper came from. This one was louder, edged with pain. Turned to look and saw that his little almost brother was crying. Tears were freezing on his fur. Kiva whispered, "You have to be quiet, you have to be brave." "I want to go home," sobbed. "I want mother, where is mother?" Felt something break inside his chest. He did not know how to answer that question. He did not know how to explain that mother was on a ship 3 systems away and would not know about the crash for another day at least. He did not know how to say that the adults who were supposed to protect them were dead. "Mother will come soon," Kiva said softly. It was a lie and they all knew it, but it was the only comfort she could offer. Looked back at the human. She was still sitting there, still waiting. Her face was calm in the starlight, patient and kind. He hated her for that kindness. Kindness was weakness. Kindness was what prey showed before it was eaten. A true warrior did not show kindness to strangers. A true warrior showed strength. But his siblings were freezing, and he did not know what to do. The human moved, tensed, his small claws extending automatically, but she did not come toward them. Instead, she stood up slowly and walked back to her shuttle. A few minutes later, she returned carrying something. It was a box. She set it down on the ground halfway between her rock and their container. Then she opened it and stepped back. Inside the box were 3 silver packages. Even from a distance, could smell the heat coming from them. Thermal blankets, emergency supplies. "These are for you," the human called out. Her voice was gentle, not demanding. "You do not have to take them if you do not want to, but they are here if you need them." She walked back to her rock and sat down again. Stared at the box. His whole body was screaming at him to go get those blankets. His siblings needed them, especially. The little one's shivering had gotten worse and his breathing sounded strange, shallow, weak. But taking help from a human would be admitting defeat. It would be admitting that they were not strong enough to survive on their own. His teacher would be ashamed of him. His parents would be ashamed of him. He stayed where he was. Another hour passed, stopped crying. That should have been a good thing, but it was not. He had stopped crying because he was too cold to cry anymore. His body was shutting down, saving energy for the important things. Breathing, heartbeat, nothing else. Kiva looked at with desperate eyes. She whispered, "He is getting worse, we have to do something." "We will be fine," said. His voice sounded hollow even to his own ears. "Help is coming, we just have to wait." "He cannot wait," Kiva's whisper turned into a hiss. "Look at him, really look at him." Looked, was curled into a tiny ball, his fur fluffed up as far as it would go, his eyes half closed. His breaths were coming in short, quick gasps. He looked small, so small. "The human has blankets," Kiva said. "Warm blankets, please, let me go get them." "No," the word came out before could think. "We do not take help from humans, we are warriors." "We are children," Kiva snapped. "We are cold, scared children and is dying. Is your pride worth more than his life?" The question hit like a blow to the chest. He stared at his cousin, at the anger and fear in her golden eyes. She had never spoken to him like that before. She had always followed his lead, trusted his decisions. But she was right. He knew she was right. He looked at the little body that was slowly surrendering to the cold. at the face that was so young, so innocent, had never hurt anyone, still believed in heroes and happy endings and a universe that was fair. Could not let him die for the sake of pride. "Stay here," he said quietly. "I will get them." He walked out of the container on legs that shook from cold and fear. The human watched him come but did not move. She just sat there, her hands visible and empty, her face calm. Reached the box. He grabbed all 3 thermal blankets, clutching them to his chest. They were wonderfully warm, like holding a piece of the sun. He did not thank the human. He did not even look at her. He just turned and ran back to the container, back to his family. Behind him, still sitting on her rock, smiled softly. It was a start. The thermal blankets helped. Within an hour, shivering had slowed, and his breathing had returned to something close to normal. He was still cold, still scared, but he was no longer in immediate danger. Watched him sleep, wrapped in silver material that crinkled softly with every breath. Kiva sat beside her little cousin, one hand resting on his back. She had not spoken to since he returned with the blankets. The silence between them was heavy with words neither of them knew how to say. Outside, the human was still there, still waiting. The stars wheeled slowly overhead, marking the passage of time. Did not understand her. He had been taught that all species operated on simple principles. Predators hunted, prey ran, warriors fought. The weak served the strong. Everything had a purpose, a reason, a place in the natural order. But what was the human's purpose here? She had offered help without asking for anything in return. She had given them warmth without demanding payment. That was not how the universe worked. That was not how anything worked. Unless it was a trap. Yes, that had to be it. She was trying to make them trust her so she could capture them later. Humans were known for their cleverness. They could not win fights directly, so they used tricks and lies. This kindness was just another trick. Held onto that thought. It was easier to believe than the alternative. The night stretched on. Slept. Kiva dozed, her head nodding forward before jerking back up again. She was fighting to stay awake, to keep watch, but her body was too tired. Sleep told her quietly, "I will watch." Kiva looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I am the oldest. It is my duty." She did not argue. She curled up next to, pulling the thermal blanket over both of them, and was asleep within minutes. Watched her for a moment, then turned back to the entrance. The human had built a small fire. That was strange. The fire would not warm her inside her suit. It served no practical purpose. Then realized that the fire was not for the human. It was for them. She had built it so they could see her, so they would know exactly where she was and what she was doing. She was making herself visible, predictable, safe. Another trick, told himself, but the thought felt hollow now. Time passed. His legs ached and his eyes burned. He had never been so tired in his entire life. But he would not sit down. He would not close his eyes. A warrior did not rest while enemies were near. Even if those enemies were sitting quietly by a fire, doing nothing threatening at all. Dawn came slowly to Moon Kappa 7. The sky turned from black to purple to a pale gray-blue. The temperature rose slightly, enough that could feel his fingers again. In the growing light, he could see the full extent of the crash site, the broken ship, the scattered debris, the body of their guardian now covered by a white sheet. The human had done that, realized. Sometime during the night, she had covered the body. She had shown respect for the dead. Why would she do that? The dead was nothing to her, a stranger from a species that looked down on humans. There was no benefit to covering the body, no advantage to be gained. Unless she had done it simply because it was the right thing to do. Certainty began to crack. Behind him stirred. The little cub made a small sound, something between a whimper and a question. Turned to see him sitting up, the thermal blanket falling from his shoulders. His golden eyes were wide and confused. "Where are we?" asked. "Where is everyone?" "We are safe," said. He crouched down so he was at eye level with the young cub. "We had an accident, but we are safe now. Help is coming." "I am hungry," said. His voice was small and plaintive. "And thirsty, my throat hurts." Looked around the container. There was nothing here. No food, no water. Everything useful had been destroyed in the crash. Except what the human had. He closed his eyes for a moment. His pride screamed at him to refuse, to wait, to prove that they did not need anything from anyone. But pride did not fill empty stomachs. Pride did not heal sore throats. "Wait here," he told. "I will find something." He walked out of the container and toward the human. She saw him coming and stood up, her movements slow and careful. She did not smile. She did not look triumphant. She just waited. "The young one needs food and water," said. The words tasted bitter in his mouth. "Do you have any?" "Yes," the human said. "I have both. Will you bring him to my shuttle, or should I bring supplies here?" It was a simple question, but it carried weight. If allowed them to go to the shuttle, they would be in the human's territory. If she brought supplies here, they would still be on neutral ground. "Bring them here," he said. The human nodded. "I will be right back." She walked to her shuttle and returned a few minutes later with a bag. Inside were bottles of water, packets of food, and more thermal blankets. She set everything down at the same spot as before, halfway between them. "The food is standard emergency rations," she explained. "It is safe for to eat. I checked before I came." Stared at her. "You checked?" "Yes, different species have different needs. I did not want to give you anything that might make you sick." She had thought about that. She had taken the time to research their dietary needs before offering food. That was not something a predator would do. That was not something someone setting a trap would do. "Why?" asked. The question came out before he could stop it. "Why are you helping us? What do you want?" The human looked at him for a long moment. Her eyes were brown, warm, and terribly sad. "I want you to be safe," she said simply. "That is all. I want you to be warm and fed and safe until your people come for you." "But why? We are nothing to you. We are strangers." The human smiled just a little. "When I was young, I was lost once. I was scared and alone, and I did not know what to do. A stranger helped me. She did not know me. She had no reason to help me, but she did because that is what good people do. They help others who are in trouble." She paused, her eyes distant with memory. "I cannot repay that stranger. She died many years ago, but I can pass on what she gave me. I can help others the way she helped me. That is why I am here. That is why I will stay until you are safe." Did not know what to say. His whole understanding of the universe was shifting, rearranging itself around this small human woman and her quiet kindness. "I do not understand you," he admitted. "That is okay," said. "You do not need to understand me. You just need to let me help you." Looked back at the container where Kiva and were waiting. He thought about his teacher's words, about strength and weakness and the natural order of things. He thought about his parents, far away on their military ship, who would tell him to stand strong and show no weakness. Then he thought about his hungry eyes and Kiva's tired face. He reached down and picked up the bag of supplies. "Thank you," he said quietly. The words felt strange on his tongue, foreign and new. "Thank you for helping us." Smile widened just a little. "You are welcome. Now go feed your family. I will be here if you need anything else." He turned and walked back to the container, the bag clutched tightly in his arms. Behind him, the human sat back down by her fire. The wall between them had not fallen, but for the first time there was a door. The day passed slowly. The cubs ate the food the human had given them, and it was good. Simple, plain, but warm and filling. His energy returned bit by bit. He even managed a small smile when Kiva made a joke about the strange taste of human emergency rations. Watched them both, his heart heavy with relief and something else, something he did not have a name for yet. The human had saved his life. The human had fed them all, and she had asked for nothing in return. He still did not fully trust her. Years of teaching could not be undone in a single night, but the sharp edge of his suspicion had dulled. She was not acting like an enemy. She was acting like something else entirely. The sun crossed the sky and began to sink again. Another night was coming. Felt a chill of fear at the thought. The first night had been terrible. He did not know if they could survive another. But they had more blankets now. They had food. They were stronger than they had been before. Came to check on them as the light began to fade. She stopped at the edge of the container, not entering, respecting their space. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Is everyone warm enough? Is anyone hurt?" "We are fine," said automatically. Then he paused. "Has some bruises from the crash. They hurt when he moves." Nodded. "I have medicine in my shuttle. Pain relief safe for young. May I bring it?" Hesitated. Every time he accepted her help, it felt like losing a small battle, but was sitting behind him, trying not to whimper every time he shifted position. Pride was one thing. A child's pain was another. "Yes," said, "please." The word came easier this time. He did not know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Returned with a small tube of cream. She showed how to apply it, explaining each step carefully. Then she handed it to him and stepped back, letting him do it himself, letting him keep his dignity. "Thank you," said softly as the medicine began to work. His voice was still small, still scared, but there was warmth in it now. "Thank you, human lady." "You are welcome, little one," said. "My name is, you can call me that if you like." Repeated, he smiled just a little. "That is a pretty name." Kiva made a sharp sound in her throat. "Do not talk to her, she is not our friend." Felt a flash of irritation. "She helped us, Kiva, she saved life." "That does not mean we should trust her." Kiva's golden eyes were hard. "Our teacher said humans are dangerous. They lie, they trick, they pretend to be kind so they can get what they want." Did not look offended, she just looked sad. "Your teacher was not entirely wrong," she said quietly. "Humans can be all those things. Some of us lie, some of us trick, some of us are cruel for no reason at all." She paused, meeting Kiva's eyes directly. "But some of us are kind simply because kindness is the right thing to do. Some of us help others because we know what it feels like to need help. Not all humans are good, but not all of us are bad either. We are just people the same as you, some good, some bad, mostly somewhere in between." Kiva did not respond, but her hard expression softened just a little. Night fell. The stars came out brilliant and cold, built another fire larger than last night's. She sat beside it, her figure dark against the flames. The cubs huddled in their container, wrapped in thermal blankets. They were warmer than they had been the night before, but the cold was still there, pressing against the walls. Outside, strange sounds began to echo across the barren landscape. Heard them first. His ears perked up, then flattened against his skull. "What is that?" he whispered. "What is making that noise?" Listened. The sounds were low and long, somewhere between a howl and a moan. They rose and fell in patterns he did not recognize. They sounded hungry. "I do not know," he admitted. "Some kind of animal, maybe." "This moon has native predators," Kiva said. Her voice was tight with fear. "I read about them once. Night hunters. They live in the caves and come out after dark." The sounds grew louder, closer. Whimpered and pressed against Kiva. Even felt his heart beating faster. He was the protector. He was supposed to keep them safe. But how could he protect them from predators? He was just a child with small claws and dull fangs. He had never fought anything in his life. A shape moved in the darkness beyond the fire, then another, and another. Counted at least 5 of them. Long, low bodies with too many legs, eyes that reflected the firelight like drops of blood. They circled the camp, staying just outside the light, making those horrible moaning sounds. Stood up slowly. She reached for something at her belt, a weapon, some kind of beam projector. She held it loosely, not aiming yet but ready. "Stay inside," she called to the cubs. "Do not come out no matter what. I will handle this." "Handle this?" Kiva's voice cracked. "There are 5 of them. You are just one human." "I know," said, "but I have dealt with worse." One of the predators lunged. It moved fast, faster than could track, a blur of legs and teeth and hunger. Fired. A beam of blue light shot through the darkness and the creature screamed. It fell back, not dead but wounded, and the others hesitated. Did not hesitate. She fired again, driving the predators back with precise shots. She moved like water, flowing from one position to another, never staying still long enough to be targeted. But there were too many of them, and more were coming. Could hear them, more moaning calls echoing from the hills. The wounded ones were calling for reinforcements. "We have to help her," he said. He did not know where the words came from. He did not know when he had decided. But suddenly it was the only thing that mattered. "What can we do?" Kiva demanded. "We are just cubs." "We can make noise, scare them, make them think there are more of us." Was already moving, grabbing pieces of debris from the container floor. "Come on, we have to do something." He ran out of the container, banging 2 pieces of metal together as hard as he could. The sound was loud, jarring, completely unlike anything a predator would expect. Kiva followed a moment later, screaming at the top of her lungs. Even Little joined in, throwing rocks and yelling in his thin, high voice. The predators froze. They were not expecting resistance. They were not expecting noise and movement and chaos. For a crucial moment, they did not know what to do. Use that moment. She fired 3 more shots, hitting 3 more creatures, and suddenly the pack decided that this prey was not worth the trouble. They turned and ran, vanishing into the darkness as quickly as they had appeared. Silence fell, heavy ringing silence. Stood in the firelight, pieces of metal still clutched in his hands, his whole body shaking. He looked at. She was breathing hard, her weapon still raised, her eyes scanning the darkness for any remaining threats. "Are they gone?" asked in a small voice. "For now," said. She lowered her weapon but did not holster it. "They might come back, they might not, but we scared them pretty badly." She looked at the 3 cubs, at their brave, terrified faces, and something shifted in her expression. "You did not have to do that," she said quietly. "You did not have to come out and help. You could have stayed hidden." Swallowed, his throat was dry. "You were fighting to protect us. We could not just hide while you faced them alone." Stared at him for a long moment. Then she smiled, a real smile, warm and bright. "I think your teacher was wrong about you. You are not just warriors. You are something more." Did not know what to say. His whole body was still shaking, and now that the danger had passed, all the fear he had been holding back came rushing in. His knees buckled. He sat down hard in the dust, the metal pieces clattering from his hands. Kiva sat down beside him. Then, the 3 cubs huddled together in the firelight, trembling from cold and fear and the aftermath of battle. Looked at them. She saw 3 frightened children pretending to be brave. She saw weeks of harsh training crumbling against hours of harsh reality. She saw walls built by culture and duty beginning to crack. Slowly, gently, she opened her arms. The cubs looked at its open arms. They looked at her kind face, her warm eyes, her patient smile. They looked at everything they had been taught to reject, everything they had been told was weakness. And they made their choice. Moved first. The smallest cub let out a sob, a sound that had been building inside him for 2 days, and ran across the space between them. He crashed into his chest and buried his face in her shoulder, his small body shaking with tears. Kiva followed. She tried to hold back, tried to maintain some dignity, but when she saw wrapped in the human's arms, something inside her broke. She stumbled forward and grabbed onto his side, pressing close, seeking warmth and comfort and safety. Stood alone. He watched his family clinging to the human, crying and trembling, and every teaching, every lesson, every word his elders had ever spoken screamed at him to stay where he was. Warriors did not seek comfort. Warriors did not show weakness. Warriors stood alone. But he was not a warrior. He was a child. A scared, exhausted, heartbroken child who had just watched his guardian die and had been pretending to be strong for 2 days because no one else was going to do it. He did not remember deciding to move. One moment he was standing, and the next he was running, and then he was in arms with Kiva, and he was crying harder than he had ever cried in his entire life. Held them all. Her arms were not as long as Ace, not as strong, not as impressive, but they were enough. They wrapped around 3 shaking cubs and pulled them close, creating a circle of warmth in the cold night. "It is okay," she said softly. Her voice was gentle, steady, sure. "You are safe now, I have you, you are safe." Cried, all the fear he had been hiding, all the grief he had been denying, all the pressure he had been carrying poured out of him in waves. He cried for their guardian, dead in the wreckage. He cried for his parents, so far away they might as well be in another universe. He cried for himself, for the weight of responsibility that had been placed on his small shoulders. Did not tell him to stop. She did not tell him to be brave or be strong or be a warrior. She just held him and let him cry. The night passed. The predators did not return. The fire burned low and then rose again as added more fuel, moving carefully so as not to disturb the cubs in her arms. They slept eventually, all 3 of them, exhausted beyond measure, curled against her like puppies seeking their mother's warmth. She held them through the night. Her arms grew tired, her back grew sore, but she did not move. She did not complain. She just held them and watched the stars and waited for morning. Dawn came, soft and pink and gentle. The cubs stirred one by one, waking slowly from the deepest sleep they had experienced since the crash. Was first, blinking his golden eyes in the morning light, confused for a moment about where he was. Then he remembered. He looked up at Space, at the human who had protected them through the darkness, and he smiled. "Good morning," he said softly. "Good morning, little one," replied. "How do you feel?" Better, stretched, his small body creaking. Much better. Kiva woke next, and then. There was a moment of awkwardness as they realized what had happened, as they remembered breaking down and running into a human's arms like frightened infants. His ears flattened with embarrassment. "I am sorry," he started to say. "I should not have." "Stop," said gently. "You have nothing to apologize for. You were brave. All 3 of you were brave. Asking for help when you need it, accepting comfort when you are hurting, that is not weakness. That is wisdom." Stared at her, "But our teachers." "Your teachers taught you one way of being strong. There are other ways," smiled. "Humans learned this lesson long ago. We are small and weak compared to most species. We cannot win fights alone. So we learn to work together, to support each other, to share our burdens. That is how we survived. That is how we spread across the stars, not through strength but through connection." She looked at each of the cubs in turn. "You do not have to choose between being warriors and being vulnerable. You can be both. The strongest warriors I have ever known were also the kindest. They fought fiercely and loved deeply. They protected others not because it was their duty, but because they cared." The cubs were quiet for a moment, absorbing her words. Then Kiva spoke, her voice soft. "Our guardian used to say something like that. She said that true strength was not about being hard. It was about being soft enough to feel and strong enough to keep going anyway." Nodded. She sounded like she was very wise. "She was." Kiva's eyes grew wet. "I miss her." "I know," reached out and touched Kiva's cheek gently. "Missing someone is not weakness either. It means you loved them. It means they mattered." A sound came from the sky. All 4 of them looked up to see a ship descending through the atmosphere. It was large and gray, marked with symbols. Help had finally arrived. Felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that rescue was here. Fear of how his people would react to finding them in a human's arms. And something else, something unexpected. Sadness that his time with was ending. The ship landed nearby and figures emerged. Adult, tall and serious, wearing the uniforms of the Emergency Response Corps. They approached quickly, their golden eyes scanning the scene. The lead responder stopped when she saw the cubs huddled against the human. Her expression flickered with surprise, then something harder. Disapproval, maybe, or confusion. "Are these the survivors?" she asked. "Yes," said. She stood up slowly, keeping her movements non-threatening. 3 cubs, minor injuries, some exposure to cold but otherwise healthy. I provided emergency supplies and protection through the night. The responder looked at the cubs. "Is this true?" Stepped forward. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. "Yes, the human saved our lives. When we were cold, she gave us blankets. When we were hungry, she gave us food. When predators attacked, she fought them off. She stayed with us through 2 nights, asking nothing in return." He met the responder's eyes directly. "She is not our enemy, she is our friend." The responder's expression softened, just a little. She looked at with new eyes, seeing not a strange alien but a person who had done something good. "Thank you," she said stiffly. It was clear she was not used to thanking humans, "for protecting our young." Inclined her head. "It was my honor." The cubs were loaded onto the ship. Medical staff checked them over, wrapped them in fresh blankets, gave them warm drinks. But before the hatch closed, broke away and ran back to where was standing. "Will we see you again?" he asked. His voice was small, hopeful. Crouched down so they were eye to eye. "I do not know. The universe is very big, but I want you to remember something. Remember that strength and kindness can exist together. Remember that asking for help is not weakness. And remember that somewhere out there, a human is thinking of you and hoping you are well." She reached out and touched his shoulder gently. "You are going to grow up to be an amazing warrior. Not because you are fierce or frightening, but because you have a good heart. Protect that heart. It is your greatest weapon." Felt tears threatening again. He blinked them back. "I will remember, I promise." He hugged her one more time quickly, then ran back to the ship. As the vessel rose into the sky, the cubs pressed against the window, watching the small figure below grow smaller and smaller until she was just a dot, then nothing at all. In the Galactic database, a new entry was added that day. Under the section on human behavior, in a category that researchers called comfort bonding, scientists recorded the first documented case of a human forming emotional connections with young. They did not understand it. They could not explain it. Humans had no evolutionary reason to bond with other species. There was no survival advantage, no logical benefit. But maybe, the entry concluded, logic was not the point. Maybe some things were just about being kind. And maybe, in a universe full of warriors and predators and species fighting for dominance, that was the most remarkable thing of all.